You know it's good if we're doing a part two. Only the good ones get the part two. Bryan Rabin is just spitting so much gems and amazingness. I am thrilled to be talking to him and very excited to hear all these stories. As you know, I love all this stuff. He is joining right now. Bryan Rabin, part two. Where's Daryl Gibson, by the way? He should be on this. Daryl.
Hi, doll. That
You know it's good if it's a part two. I barely ever do part twos with anybody, so you mean?
I love a two-parter. So
Me too.
I'll tell you one last thing about Giorgio's that
Yeah.
blew my childhood mind. Okay, even though I've become friendly with Debbie Harry, I wouldn't say that we're friends. We're good acquaintances.
Yep.
I have two friends that like Miss Guy, the DJ in New York, is her best friend. He's
Yep.
okay. So one of my very dear friends is Siobhan Fahey. She was in a band called Bananarama. Their comeback, they never toured with the three originals, came because they all came to Giorgio's together, right? So Siobhan didn't tell me she brought Boy George to the club. So it's Siobhan and Boy George. Miss Guy was in town, brought Debbie Harry, okay? Muggs, Muggs from Cypress Hill or House of Pain, I always forget. He came in, he was producing D. Antwoord. They were in the club. And then Thelma Houston came up to me and said, can you please introduce me to Miss Harry? So on the dance floor, I actually snuck a picture. All of them were dancing. And may I add that Joan and Jackie Collins were dancing with each other. I mean, it was like, I kept pinching myself and I kept...
First of all, that doesn't even sound real at all. I think you're lying, basically. You're like, that doesn't even sound real.
Photograph to prove it. And I kept running to the door going, is this really happening? Oh, and the last thing I'm going to tell you is the doorman, Andrew, before he moved back to Milwaukee, he used to always screw with me and say, Iggy Pop's coming to the door, SOS, or David Bowie's coming to the front door, SOS. So I started ignoring him. And Siobhan actually asked me the week before, who could possibly come next? Everyone's come. I said, Mick Jagger. And she said, why do you say that? I said, because Anton Corbin has been in the club and Nimi. His whole crew, it was all the way around. Well, all of a sudden, Andrew, SOS, SOS, Mick Jagger's coming in the door. I was like, oh, whatever, another game he's playing, right? So you know how you have to go through the kitchen. The club is pitch dark, and then you go through the kitchen, the actual working kitchen, and it's bright, bright lights, and your eyes have to adjust. Well, I come running out, face first, right into Mick Jagger. Now, mind you, I had dinner with him many times in the 90s at the Bar Marmont because he was very good friends with my friend Nimi, and I know his, couple of his children. I would never expect him to ever remember me. So I said, Mr. Jagger, I'm so sorry I didn't have a table because my rule was if my sister from New Jersey is sitting at a table, I don't care who comes in. I'm not throwing somebody out for a famous person, and there's only 7 tables. That's the way it works there. So, and everyone pays for everything unless I decide I want to give them something. It's even favored nations. So he said to me, darling, nobody comes to Giorgio's to sit down. You come for a good boogie. And so the whole entire club, Puffy, Jody, Rufus Wainwright, Mick Fleetwood, everyone that was in there was just crushing it. It was already so tight you couldn't move. And I go up in the DJ booth and Adam goes, look at that guy right in front of you doing the boogaloo. That looks just like Mick Jagger. I went, it is Mick Jagger. It is Mick Jagger. And so he stayed for about an hour and a half and totally danced his ass off. And I mean, these things, I never appreciated them the first time around. And to come back and do it again, you never know. It could have been a complete stink pot dump.
Yeah.
And everything lined up. And I was actually able to stand back and go, this is fucking fabulous. Because when you're young, you have to act so cool because you can't promote because you're nervous. You know what I mean? And I was able to own those moments and go, you know what? I did this. I put all
Good for you. Good for you. No, I like that part of the story. Like, it's a fabulous story with Mick Jagger, but I like that you can be proud of yourself for creating this whole thing, this environment where Mick Jagger would even come to. You know, I'm really glad that you could take a step back. I have the same problem, taking a step back. You know, I always think it's going to be slow or it's not going to be good, and when it's amazing, you know, I'm like, oh wow, it was amazing. You know, like, but you know, it's really hard to take a step back and think like, wow, this is all my brainchild. You know, like
Totally. I relate.
I have a great Grace Jones story that I feel like sharing just because, you know, we have so much in common. I did a party in New York at a place called Lotus, and it was like, you know, again, 7-8 year party, really successful. Yeah, really successful. And she came, and obviously I'm obsessed with her, obviously. Like, I think it's implied I'm obsessed with her. You know, since I was born, I was been obsessed with her. We had a fabulous night together. Like, she took a liking to me. We hung out all night, and she turned to me and she said, they had limousines still at the time. She said, do you want to go in my limousine and take pictures of each other? And I'm like, yes, I want to do that. So we left my party, went outside, and my door girl at the time, Henry's on here, I think, but Emily was the door girl. Henry did the door at Lotus as well. Emily was the door girl, and she said, Grace went out before me, and she said, she'll never forget Grace saying, where's Damon? I want to go in my limousine and take pictures together. I'm like, is this really happening? You know, so.
Yeah, because in a way, they come for you too. You know what I mean? Like, in that room, you're as big of a star as anybody else is. You know, if not, I would dare to say more so, you know, in a weird way.
Well, I think star is an interesting word. And I've been saying this very humbly for many, many years. I'm a total star. I know that. I'm just not famous. You mean so?
Well, I'll talk to you about this. What happened to me in the 90s was very odd because I was written about, from the time I was 21, they did features, full, huge features in the Los Angeles Times. I was in Details. I was in Women's Wear Daily. And the more outrageous I became, the more I got written about. So I actually had the trappings of fame without the money. I would walk into a restaurant and people would actually yell at me for not letting them in. Or come up to me in a grocery store. If I was just doing errands, I wasn't there. I didn't have an appointment. I'm just doing my thing and I don't want to talk and I, you know, just want to get out of the store. And then someone's like, oh, she's a fucking cunt. You know, no, I'm just living my life. Leave me alone. You know what I mean? And that in the 90s, it took me a long time. I was very embarrassed about the club business, that part of my life. Because, you know, then I went on to work for everyone, Armani, Hermes, Dior, Stella McCartney, Vogue, Vanity Fair. And I thought I was embarrassed about that. And when I went back, it made me realize that nightclub on doing community service. You're bringing people together and bringing joy. And for those hours, it's like a 7-hour meditation in motion. They get to dance and they get to express themselves. And I am damn proud now of my career. You know, that career I kind of like shoved away. And I left the event. I still do some stuff for Rick Owens and Paul Smith, but I couldn't take it anymore because I came from the club business. And having publicists yell at you all day is not my idea of a good time. And a friend of mine said, why films? And I was like, are you kidding me? Nothing ever gets done. They never return phone calls. They're a nightmare. And he goes, just keep your eyes and ears open. The very next day, James St. James sent me The Galleys, the unpublished book of Freak Show. And it was for ages 13 to 17, and it was about a queen who was bullied and put into a coma. The first half of the book is the way his life really happened. The second half of the book is that he ran for homecoming queen, and when it was written, no queen had done that. And he became the leader of all the outside kids. They were called shadow kids. And I cried when I read the book. And he had just come off a Party Monster. He thought he was going to get a big deal for it. And nobody would take it because it was dealing with, you know, transgendered and all these different other topics that were not part of the vernacular yet. So I got the option and I shepherded all the way through. We were nominated, starred Bette Midler, Abigail Breslin, Anna Sophia Robb, Ian Nelson, Laverne Cox. We nominated for dealing with difficult subject matter. The weird thing is, you know, it was a small indie film. It got a small release. We were actually in 30 theaters with a big deal. Netflix just bought it, and we've been trending for the last 3 weeks. So one kid sees this movie and doesn't bully somebody, and one kid doesn't kill themselves or drinks themselves to death or takes drugs, we all did our job, and it's an extremely important message. So
yeah, no, it's currently on Netflix. I was already prepared to explain to everyone it's currently on Netflix, and we should all see it and support it. You mean? I have a couple fun questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
Who are your 5 favorite artists, like of all time, singers or whatever?
So hard. Sure. Let me put some thought into that. Okay, right off the top of my head would have to be David Bowie, Diana Ross, Chaka Khan, the Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin.
And have you worked with any of them or met any of them?
I have met Diana Ross. I met Aretha Franklin. I met Mick Jagger. I was up to do a party for the Rolling Stones, but it didn't happen. Um, and I have met Robert Plant. Um,
Good.
but I also have to say Susie and the Banshees. Susie Sue kills it. And I really forgot, because you put me on the spot, I have to. They're actually number one would have to be Blondie and Debbie Harry.
Okay, listen, they're all great. You mean so? And I think in a self-reflective way, percentage-wise, you've worked or dealt with most of them, and I think that's something again you should be really proud of the fact that as a 12-year-old you loved all these bands, and as a adult you got to create with them.
Well,
So
party that I will tell you at Ledoux Cafe. Blondie and Susie and the Banshees were in town exactly at the same time. And the Banshees were doing the 7-year Itch tour, right? And Blondie just hit. They made the Guinness Book of World Records. They're the only group to have a #1 in 3 consecutive decades. They hit with Maria, okay? So Michelle Lamy, who owned Ledoux Cafe, and partner Rick Owens, who was just starting to be known as a designer, they lived across the street in a storefront, and that's where Rick's atelier was. And Ledoux Cafe was originally just a parking lot on Las Palmas, which was as shady could be. It was all crack. Then they picked up a Craftsman house and they moved it there. It was shockingly glamorous. I mean, beyond anything. So we did a dinner for Blondie and the Banshees, and then it rolled into a party afterwards. And I will never forget it. Belinda Carlisle, Jane Wiedlin, Nina Hagen, Cherie Curry from the Runaways all showed up for Susie and Debbie, right? And there was a moment, and I'm going to tell a bad tale, but I don't care. They were all surrounding Susie, and David LaChapelle was taking pictures. He had like a click and point with him, right? And we're both like, oh my God, is this happening or what? This is totally insane. Now Sue was wearing a sleeveless Chinese dress, right? And she's about, I'd say about 6'2" in heels. And behind her, I don't know how she got in because I made sure. Um, and she's standing behind her back to Susie, calling on the cell phone. And I can see Susie like this. And I was like, oh shit, it's about to go down. So honk, honk, honk. On the shoulder goes Susie. And standing there, Rose Apataka from Women's Wear Daily and W Magazine. And she said, will you keep that incessant, vapid conversation away from me? You're ruining my party, and I'm about to ruin you. Now run. It was one of the greatest moments ever.
first of all, once a punk, always a punk. That's what I mean, right?
Totally.
Yeah, because I think Debbie Harry still is the same person as well. Like, I see her in New York. Again, I don't know her per se, but we're always like cordial and friendly to each other. She's the same person, Debbie Harry. Like I went to Mirapool's art opening years ago, and Debbie Harry rode her bike and parked her bike. It's just she's still that same cool New York girl and always will be. So
Ultimate girl from the streets, and she performs in nightclubs still. She did stuff with the Julian Bankhead. She was a big part of Jackie's 60, a big part of Squeeze Box. She never left her roots, and that's what kept her authentic. And I think kept that beauty shining through that light that she has, because she never put herself in White Castle.
you're right. You're right. You see her walking around New York. She's very approachable and cool. It's like her and Debbie Mays are the 2 coolest chicks in New York ever saw. So you mean?
Down.
Yeah. Okay. Another question. 5 best parties of all time.
Oh my God, you're killing me. Okay. Madonna's music.
Yep, I would have to say that is one.
Women's Wear Daily, White Hot Diamonds, when the collections used to not compete with the Oscars. And so I turned this whole entire house white. And we did these vitrines, for example, with $23 million worth of diamonds. So one was a white mouse running on a wheel. One was white coral with white fish with the diamond necklace, so forth and so on. And every major celeb came, and every major designer in the world came, and that's what really blew my career up, because LA was out back then. Nobody came to LA, but because they started using celebrities on the cover of fashion magazines, everything changed. So that's how I was able to get all those. I would say, oh God, there are so many. I would say the party for Dior that I did for the diffusion line when Mr. Galliano was there. We call it Dietrich. That was a really exciting party. I would say that the party that I did for Levi's in the Standards parking lot before the downtown Standard was built in a construction site, and Fisher Spooner performed, was pretty amazing. There were so many, but I will have to tell you that when Warhol Week happened at MOCA, I was called to do the after party when Morton's was still open. Morton's was the Hollywood restaurant. You know, there's always one, and I was told that an artist was going to perform, and all I needed was a stool and a mic. And I thought, that's weird. Well, and they would not tell me who it was until sound check. Okay. In walks Mary Ann Faithful. I did
Amazing.
promoting that Britpop record at the time, and
Yep.
about 150 people there. And she said, I never like to live in nostalgia. And and she said, I'm only doing this song because Andy would have begged me to do it. And she did As Tears Go By a cappella.
Amazing.
I mean, and there's, I mean, there's, I could go on and on and on and on. I mean, the performances and the people I've had perform, and you know, the weird locations, like doing a party for Stuff Magazine on the roof of the ArcLight and having Eagles of Death Metal play, to doing one of my favorite things of all time was when I did the reopening of Harry Winston, and we, all of our friends, women of all different ages and colors and sizes, at the models. We pre-shot all the video, so that we made it black and white and really grainy, so that every woman could identify with another woman that was on the screen. So that was pretty outrageous. And of course, Vanity Fair, they would do all these different initiatives. And I did this party up at Kelly Lynch's house, the Graydon Carter. But I do have to mention, well, 4 years. I booked for the first time ever. I'm sorry. Yeah, Iman. No. Yeah, correct. Right? Am I getting it back?
Who?
Half black. She became an actress.
Chanel Iman?
Yeah, she became. I booked her, and she became kind of a supermodel. And I have to say, I did a party for one of your best friends that she performed at. It was one of her first performances. I did this thing. I didn't let them use my name because it was a lower end brand, but I worked with a friend of mine. It was his client, actually, for Hot Topic, and they had Janelle Monae perform for, you know, it was an internal party, and I had never seen anybody. I thought, she's the most punk rock person I've ever seen and the most soulful person I've ever seen.
Yep.
I'm watching Tina Turner right now, the new Tina Turner. I never made my jaw drop on the ground. I had never seen talent like that in my life. It was
No, everyone needs to see her live. I tell everyone, go see her live. It all makes sense. Well, the thing I love about her is that, you know, now she's become this huge, big star, but she still will stage dive like nobody's business. She will run as fast as she can and jump into the audience with her little 5'2" self. She is a true rock star, 100%, 100%.
I do have to mention one last party because it meant so much to me personally. Like, Rick Owens is one of my dearest friends. We've been friends since I was 20. and
Yeah.
knew him way before he was famous. And when he left Los Angeles, he said he would never come back, and he never did come back ever until about a year, maybe 10 months ago, and it was his birthday. And I was able to throw his birthday party. He never saw a store, and he came back to LA. It was very traumatic when he left here for a variety of different reasons, and he wanted to leave the door. He just slammed the door. And for me to be able to do that for my dear friend, and for him to be able to see what Los Angeles had become and see it through new eyes again, we turned the store into, we brought in a DJ from Berlin. And after we did the book signing, and it was his birthday, we threw him this birthday party. It was just smoke. We cleared out the store, and it was just his friends that stayed. And he stood on one of the platforms. And again, with the eyes closed and throwing that black hair around and smiling. And it made me cry.
Yeah.
It made me feel great. I was able to do that. So.
Well, I went to the first part of that party, the store party, and it was a fabulous party. That, to me, that's what LA is right now. You know, like, it's a great thing that you said. You could show them the new LA. That's the new LA, that party. That was fabulous, that party. I was there, you mean? And it was the day after the Audition opening, actually. The Audition LA opening was the next day. It was a Sunday or Monday, that party. And that's the new LA, I think. That's a prime example of the new LA to me, though. So
Totally. It was the old guard. There were people in their 70s there, and then there were gorgeous kids that were there for the book signing, clutching, dying to go in. And Rick spent a long time, whether you were famous or an old friend, he actually probably spent more time with the kids because he wants to always know what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Generous spirit. So
I do have to, I would be remiss if I did not shout out someone. We share someone in common, which is Henry. He is your doorman. He's also my doorman. And he's been on here this whole chat he's been on. And, we did Lotus together. He's done basically every LA party I've ever done. He's been the doorman. And he does Giorgio's for you. And we both love him so much because number one, he has the eye that you and I have. You mean? So, I told him and everyone when I first came to LA, the weirder the better. Like, if someone has blue hair, absolutely. That's what we want. He gets it obviously very clearly, but I love him very much. I know you do as well. And he's been on here supporting us the whole time. So
hi, Henri. I love you. Miss you so much, baby. And the thing Henri has that nobody else has anymore, he is the last of the Mohicans. He knows the art of the mix. The gay, straight, black, white, young, old. He knows how to mix the salad. And he's brilliant at it. He's also really brilliant at turning people away in a way that they don't feel like they're getting turned away. But be soft. Don't push Henri because,
Oh, he has a temper. He has a temper, right?
Henri is a tiger. He is a tiger.
Henri, yeah, right. Henri, we love you very much. You know that. And we both miss you very much. So a couple of other things before we'll wrap it up, I think now. It's been a couple hours now. What inspires you now, like in the last year or so, let's say?
A few things. I started doing a documentary on one of my dear friends, Wayne Jane County, the first transsexual rocker. She was the star of Andy Warhol's Pork. She was the first person to play CBGBs. She went in both flashpoints of punk. She had a comeback. Let's just say her life was, that headwind was heavily influenced by her. She was Bowie's main man. And at 74, she's having the most unbelievable third act. She had an art show, and Art in America and Art Forum went crazy. And we went to go film her just pre-COVID. She opened at the Marlboro Gallery, and every downtown person came to support her. And they weren't really understanding the levity of where she was. I said, this is not Madison Square Garden. This is not Carnegie Hall. This is Lincoln Center. This was Picasso's gallery. So I'm extremely inspired by this project, which we're hopefully going to get up and running. I'm doing a TV series. I'm partnered with Norman Reedus right now about another dear friend of mine, Sherry Vanilla, who also created culture in her time. She was also a star of Andy Warhol's Pork and was one of the instigators of punk rock, but she was a trailblazer in her own right. She was told by her dad, we're not sending you to college, you're going to be a secretary or a housewife. And within 1 year in 1963, she was Her account as an advertising executive was Coca-Cola. It's the real thing. She was the one who dumped the acid down Madison Avenue. She's the first woman DJ in New York City, and it just goes on and on and on. So I'm very inspired by that. And Norman Reedus, I shouldn't be saying it, but we're working on that project together. And I'm really inspired right now by the beauty of the world. Because of COVID, we're seeing Mother Nature rejuvenate itself. The skies are really blue. And the kindness that I'm seeing from other people, the beauty within people are really shining, and the nature, that's what's really inspiring me.
Not to cut you off, but the support, I think, our community has supported each other so much. I've noticed, more than, I felt more supported by, let's say, our community is always very supported, but I felt more supported by our community than I have in the past couple months, I have in the past 5 years, let's say. Our community came together and supported each other. Support in general across the board.
People realize what really matters now, that it's friends, and family. Everything else has been stripped away from us. So that's what's inspired me, is to watch people. And I'm more connected now with old friends because of doing Zoom and FaceTime. And I've gained a lot of weight because of that, because having little dinners and cocktail parties with people online. So I'm really connecting on a deep level that I didn't have time to do before. So, I'm inspired by humanity again, and I'm seeing people make those choices. I don't want to bring the orange one into the room, but I will say this. Vote like your life depends on it, because it does. That's my one statement that I'm going to say.
Yes, we don't mention that on this show, but I will say I read somewhere yesterday, and it's true. This is the most important election in history. So
Correct.
And let's keep it moving.
Uh-huh.
Yes, vote. We've talked about, 20 or 30 years of your life here. What have you learned? What do you think one of the main things or the most important things you've learned over the years?
That when you fall down, you can get up and do it again, and your past has not dictated all what your future is going to be like. And that if you believe it, you can be it, like Rocky Horror. And I saw that movie in 1980 when I was in 5th grade, and I still believe that. If you dream hard enough and you get clear enough on what that dream is, time has shown me over and over and over again. My life has not been all roses and daisies. I low, and I know that also from ice skating, you would fall down hundreds of times before you would get the trick. And that's what my life has taught me. That you fall down, it hurts like fucking hell, and you look up and you say, how can I do that a little bit better so I can actually attain that? And that's what this life has taught me. Always, the beauty to me in life, my best days are not behind me. My best days are in front of me. And,
amazing.
So amen.
You should. So 2 things. I'm trying to wrap this up too, and it keeps going longer, and I'm not mad. I'm just saying. 2 things. You should definitely write a book. I don't know if you are. Are you writing a book?
Everyone's telling me to.
Do it. Just do it.
I kept diaries. It's hard for me to read them because I would write them when I'd come home and I'd be fucked up in the 90s. But I did keep diaries, and I've been trying to write a page a day, and it's really hard. But
yeah. But I mean, everything you just shared here alone, I would read in a heartbeat. All of that, And then finally, we're not working, no one's working, etc. How can we support you, Bryan? Well, how can we support you right now? How can people watching support you?
Well, I'll tell you, I am about to launch in a very big way, and you're hearing it here for the first time, Giorgio's Virtual. We're doing it on Zoom, but we are doing a concept that's never been done before. And that's all I'm going to say. So the support that I would love is people to show up for that. And also just reach out to me on Instagram and let me know how you're feeling. And I'll let you know how I'm feeling, because we're not alone.
Yep.
Playing this one game, and I'll leave you with this. And maybe you and I can start doing this, Damon. It's called the gratitude game. And I'll just hit you on text and say gratitude game, ? And then we'll call each other, and I'll name 10 things that I'm grateful for, and you'll name 10 things that you're grateful for. So it imprints on me, and I get to hear what you're grateful for, because we're living through such strange times that I need to. Send me a note on Instagram.
Yeah, no, I'm totally down. That's great. I've meditated more in the past 6 months than I have my whole life. one more thing, I keep adding one more thing. We have toyed with the idea of doing a party together for a long time, and we did have this idea, which I did love. Our last incarnation was 100 people, you have 50, I have 50, and we just curate the crap out of that small little intimate room. I think we should really think about it, sometime in the future. Let's really do it.
We can actually go dancing again, which I hope is soon. I miss it so much. But we do need to do a party because I think that we would be power twins. Activate.
Like I said, we echoed each other so much, everything you said is I relate to so much. So I didn't really realize how much we had in common until today. It's really interesting. So, and we don't have, our past and our journeys have been different, but we have the same, I think, ideals and tastes, and aesthetically, we love glamorous things, but we love. I say one room of anything is the most boring room I could ever be in. I don't like anything with all the same. So
we also have the same work ethic. I too am a workaholic, and I have to tell myself to knock it off because you have to refill yourself. So I get you really well.
I love working. Like I've said a million times. Okay, but I'm gonna end it right here. I want to say one thing, and then I'm just gonna end it. So thank you for doing Legendary Talks. This is my 84th episode. You're my 84th guest. And the whole point of this show is to celebrate people that have been important to culture. Some are celebrated, some are not, and that's what we're here to do, is celebrate them. You have been so passionate and so yourself and so true to yourself and so detailed about your vision, and generous and kind and warm and lighting up rooms and curating rooms that people felt safe in for many, many years. So for that, we are celebrating you, and I want to thank you for that. So
thank you so much. It was an honor to be on the show. I learned about you, and you made me feel really, really great. And you're so kind and glamorous and fabulous. And thank you for this moment. I deeply appreciate you.
Thank you. I love you. Thank you for doing this, and we're going to do some fun stuff.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.